Hello, friends. I'm your fearless host, Ed Harold, and today I am so excited to share with you Cara Bradley. She's an American treasure, and she's done so much with her life, herself personally, and then helping humanity wake up from kind of this slumber that we've been in for a while. And my gosh, and Cara's just a ball of light. And before we dive into what she's going to share with us today, let's just see if we could take a minute and just pump the brakes on the ego and maybe drop into our body if the body gives us permission to kind of listen and see what might be there for us right now. So if we all could just close our eyes for a second and plant our feet firmly down on this beautiful planet that's hosting our experience and begin to notice that there's a part of your brain that's breathing for you. And then there's another part of your brain that you can activate that can actually control your breathing. And for most of us, that might begin by slowing down just a little bit and softening maybe around any emotional or mental edges around performance or competition or where we've been. And begin to notice this amazing muscle that separates the rib cage, the chest cavity, from the abdominal region. And in the anatomy books, it's called your thoracic diaphragm. And on the inhale, it vertically presses down towards Mother Earth. And on the exhale, it moves vertically up towards Father Sky, this vertical consciousness. And imagine the south end of the diaphragm, the one that's moving down on the inhale, has a beautiful spotlight. And on the inhale, allow it to illuminate everything below it, your organs, the pelvic floor, your legs, your feet, what's below you. And then on the exhale, imagine a beautiful spotlight facing north, illuminating the lungs, the heart, the throat, the brain, and what's above the crown of the head. And as you inhale, ground and illuminate the lower part of your body and what's below you. Feel the energy of spring. And on the exhale, illuminating what's above you, the sky of your mind. If you like to use the ocean sounding breath, you can. If you don't, it still works. Just light yourself up just a touch. Vertical consciousness. And begin to merge with that sacred source, that beautiful flame of consciousness that's hidden inside all of ourselves. That purest of the pure, the brightest of the bright, the lightest of the light. Begin to deepen your breath. Maybe exhale with a sigh and break the sound barrier for a moment and just, let it all go. And open your eyes and reclaim the space that you're in and welcome Cara into your senses. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ed. It's so great to be here. So good to see your face.
Well, I love what you're doing on Substack. Can you explain to folks what was the driving force behind going that extra dimension?
Well, it's interesting. So I'm writing on Substack daily, Monday through Friday, something called Sparked or Sparks, Daily Sparks, which are really short mindset messages, short grounding practices. And the idea came to me in December, actually December 12th. It just flooded into me to do this. I had been hosting a podcast myself for 9 years. And at times they were daily. And it was just a solo podcast. They were 3 to 6 minutes long, very off the cuff, unscripted. And honestly, Ed, the reason I started this podcast 9 years ago was because I've been teaching fitness, movement, yoga for my entire adult life. And I found that, especially in yoga, as you know, you don't want to talk the entire class. If there's anything that represents my style of teaching, it is real trust in the intelligence of every single student in the room and their own brilliance. And if I'm talking the whole class, well, then they don't have the opportunity to really hear what their body, their soul is telling them. So I was curtailing a lot of what was coming through as a teacher. There's so much intelligence, collective intelligence in a yoga practice. And so instead of just speaking into the class, I would go home and I'd speak it on a mic. So it was my way of just downloading. And so after a while, our mediums change in this lifetime. There's always creative expression, but the
Yeah.
medium, maybe it's clay or a paintbrush or a recipe. But so I'm always leaning into and sensing into what's next. And I dove into the writing aspect of this creative expression. So I am just having the best time writing them and meeting people and hearing about what sparks them because, you know, not everything is going to spark everybody every day. And I certainly know that, but there are an infinite number of ways to explain this brilliant opportunity to be alive on this planet at this time. And so I am just delightfully bouncing around possibilities out there.
Well, I get the Substack thread every morning from you, and it always sparks me into paying attention, getting excited about my day, getting grounded for whatever might occur. It is such a vast ocean that you swim in. If we could, just start with a basic, like, what could we call a definition of sparked?
Mm.
What does that mean to you?
It means to activate. So
Yeah.
something gets activated. And oftentimes we don't even know why or what it means, but it's that, oh, wait, this is me. Or I need
Mhm.
to listen. I need to think about this.
That's a beautiful, beautiful way to create inquiry and exploration, curiosity, creativity. The fire means so much to us. And, we haven't been around the campfire much. We're all in the corral and
Mhm.
got the blue light of the computer. That's a different type of spark. We want to stay away from that. I don't think a lot of folks know about your backstory. And, you had one of the most successful yoga studios in Philadelphia for years, and you had teacher trainings and taught thousands of students, and you worked at Villanova University with athletes. I mean, your resume is deep. Could you enlighten us a little bit about how we got to this moment?
Well, I'll keep it short. I've been a teacher my whole life, really. Since I was 15 years old, I was a figure skater, and I
Mm,
needed to pay for my ice time, and I wasn't going to the Olympics. And so I turned pro at the time. You had to sign a paper and go from amateur to pro. And I started teaching adults how to skate when I was 15 years old. And I got sparked. I
mm,
was activated. I got the bug. I saw adults transform in front of my eyes every time we had a lesson. Once they got into their bodies, once they
mm,
started moving on the ice, their faces lit up. And I really loved that feeling of being involved and participating in that kind of shift in people. And so I started teaching movement and fitness and dance and skating and rollerblading and started teaching yoga in I guess, my early 30s. And it's like, again, different mediums, right? Same expression, different mediums. So opened a yoga studio in 2004 on the main line in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
thinking it was literally going to be a side hustle. And it was right timing. The yoga movement was just starting, right location, everything just fell into place. And honestly, the studio took me for a ride
Right.
for 18 years. I ran the studio. We ran teacher trainings every year. I absolutely loved it until I didn't, because at the end of the day, it's a business, and a
Mhm.
business that really doesn't sleep like a restaurant. It's hardly ever closed.
Mhm.
So I was able to sell it to a teacher around COVID time, and it's still flourishing, which makes me so happy. I just went down to the 20th anniversary, and I saw students that had been there since day one. And teachers. It was
Wow.
so absolutely. I, Ed, if I can tell you, it was one of those moments in my life, and we all have these moments, whether it's when our kids are born, or, we get married, or these moments. I felt like my vehicle could not actually contain all of the joy and acknowledgement and love that I experienced during that 20th anniversary. It was life affirming.
Well, it's great those little moments where there are no words to describe, what your mind and body are going through, and it's never going to be that way. And just having those little sacred moments to affirm to you that what you were on the right path and you made the right decisions, and you were able to guide people from self-doubt to self-confidence, and all the little things that we see from the wisdom of the body when we give the body permission to do what it does best, communicate.
That's right. I love that you just said that, because one of the things I still teach yoga, by the way, one class a week up here in Maine, which I love. And something that I feel, and I know you do because I've learned this from you as well, is that our body is always speaking to us through the language of sensation. And it
Right.
really is our mind's job, if you will, to become fluent in that language. And we
Hmm.
become fluent in that language through movement and stillness and breath and silence and nature and all the things we know make us feel alive. But
Hmm.
that language of the body, to me, is it's it really is the next frontier, if it's
Right.
not already here.
Yeah, it's the language of the future. And we kind of get sidejacked, the first few years of life. It's great. It's just movement. There's no ego, no expectations. I'm always okay. And then all of a sudden we move into the thinking world. And some of us do better in that than others, but we all have to find a certain level of communication, with thought. And let's face it, we become our thoughts to some degree. And the great part about the work that we're in is that we get to evolve our thought forms. We get to evolve our feeling world. And every day is like almost like a second childhood.
I love that. It is.
Mm.
You always think about the Dalai Lama. They say, he's like a child. Like when you meet him, he's bubbly and giggly and bright. And I had the great blessing of having a meditation teacher who is still my teacher and still a great friend, who is childlike as well. And I saw that the first day I met him. I was like, wow, there is something really different about him, and his wife too. They're both phenomenal beings, and they taught for years out of my yoga center as well.
Yeah, there's something about, the meek will inherit the earth. And that's not the weak, it's the child
Mm.
will inherit the earth. And sometimes we get so wrapped up in our story, like, that I have to be serious, and everything has to be perfect. And we kind of move away from that, the guidance of the child of, like, everything's going to be okay. Let's take it one step at a time. Let's explore over here. Let's paint over there. All these little things that we have a tendency to move away from might be the key to get back into our finest self.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I think there's something about age. I'm really experiencing that. I turned 60 this year, and there's something that's shifting. You know,
Yeah.
there's a slowing down in the right way.
Right.
And I think like you were saying about our stories, you know, I know my story. Like
Hmm.
yes, if somebody asks me, I'll share and as quickly as I can. But there our stories really just become the backdrop. And it is so much more fun to live, just as you guided us at the beginning of this talk in your lovely practice, to really allow the stories to just be in the background, to be helpful when needed to access, but for this brilliant experience right now to be full, present, focused, and right here. There's no words for it.
It's amazing the control we've been given over our life. And I think we're waking up to that accountability and responsibility. We have our chronological age, and that has the social baggage to it. And then you have your biological age, which is really the only age that really matters.
Yes.
How old do you feel? Like, how is your body operating? What are the various levels of energy in your system? And see so many people, you know, not acting their age anymore
In a good way. In a good
in a
way.
great in a great
Yeah.
way. Like, there's a part of me that swears I'm 15, and it's going to explore that to the best of its ability. Even though I might not be able to do it, I'm still going to try it.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, our thoughts have, and this is just kind of coming through, so I'm just going to say it. Our thoughts are not ageless. Our
Hmm.
thoughts have almost like a tinge of age on them. They could,
Hmm.
and I think
Yeah.
that in our practices, the practices that, you and I have been deeply committed to for decades now, it allows us to see those older patterns, the heavier, kind of grumpier thought patterns, and we get to interrupt that stuff.
Right.
And in the interruption, the continuous interruption, they start to weaken and fade, and
Right.
we can replace it with the 15. I don't know if I want to go back to 15, but those
Right.
youthful thoughts, the
Right.
flexible thinking, the open thinking.
Yeah, we really begin to see that, a lot of the ancient teachings, are really relevant. That, your mind is the only thing you really truly own. And that's the garden that you want to take care of, you know,
Mm.
especially in springtime. What thought forms, what old weeds do I want to pull, out of my mind, really
Yes.
take a good look at with discernment before I plant new flowers for the spring. Because if I don't pull the old weeds, they're going to draw all the water out from the new flowers and plants that you're putting in. We're all these masterful gardeners in the mind of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's easier said than done, and there may be some people listening is like, yeah, I get that, but how do I do that? Because we are bombarded with so much information and so many um, kind of tintillating things to look at and listen to and all day long. How can I possibly start to organize this, ball of yarn called my busy mind?
Right.
And,
Right.
it can happen just so simply,
Yeah.
and
You
so
can't
simply.
believe it.
Yeah.
You can't believe how easy this is. It's not complex.
Yeah.
It's just go to the body again and
Yes.
again and again. If you don't get what you want, at least you didn't get what you didn't want. Keep asking the body, get to the gym and work on your inner game. Don't go to the gym to create pain. Go into the gym to create pleasure.
Yeah.
Stretch your body, use the weights, use the light cardio, pay attention to the story. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. What are you trying to tell me today? What am I not hearing right now? How would you like to move? How would you like to be in stillness?
Right.
How can I best serve you? I ask my body questions all day long. I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and the great thing about the body is it's not like the ego. It doesn't require an immediate answer.
Yeah.
The health of your body might come from the quality of your question. Like, what do you
Mm,
want to know? And just because you can't get an immediate answer, it's like ding, 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 ding. Like there's something there for me. Like hang in there with that.
yeah. Yeah, and I love to encourage people to explore different movement patterns.
Exactly.
You don't only have to do yoga or Pilates or I do this or I'm a runner. Like you're a mover, right?
Right.
It's our birthright to move
Hmm.
our bodies. And so when we can get curious about how this vehicle gets to move and play every day, it really sets us free. Because if there's one thing I really hmm, it gets under my skin, and I've said this publicly before, is that the fitness industry, and I've been a part of it, you've been a part of it for our whole careers, has hijacked movement from our vocabulary. It's
Yeah.
hijacked the idea of movement and it's turned it into a should. And
Right.
there's nothing less fun than a should. And
Right.
so if we can reclaim movement as our birthright and just recognize that any movement
Right.
is a way to play and explore who we are in this body.
I'm so down with that. Just letting the body do what it wants to do with whatever level of energy that I have at that particular moment of my life, and discarding like I need to create pain to somehow down the line somehow create pleasure.
Yeah.
We begin to wire the brain in a way that's like it becomes our worst enemy. Like, why would I want to create pain to feel pleasure? Like, what is that feeding? It should be win-win all the way through. Pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Push up against maybe what the boundary might be in a healthy way. Don't run that red light. Like, what is there for me? If I don't get to 10, who cares? I'm not going to remember it 2 weeks from now, anyhow.
Right.
There's all these little trap forms that have come into fitness to me that just seem to exacerbate self doubt and insecurity and fear. Where exercise to me is all about just getting into the present moment. And can I go deeper into my mind in the present moment? Because I don't know anybody who hasn't gone deeper into themselves and said, that sucked. The whole thing is, how do I get deeper into this light in the healthiest way possible, creating longevity and longer life of my cells?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. For my 60th birthday, I started CrossFit.
Hmm.
And so it's almost a year now that I've been doing CrossFit a few days a week. And I'd never done Olympic lifting like that. I've been a certified strength coach for 20 years, but I used it for different things. I used it to train university teams. I needed that education. But it has been a phenomenal experience, and I feel very blessed with the community that I have, very safe, very caring community.
Good.
But it is a way of training the mind-body connection in a different way than yoga,
Hmm.
and so it's all patterns, right? We're learning different movement patterns, whether it be a yoga pose or, a clean or whatever it is, a pull-up. And we're learning different movement patterns and how to awaken the body in these patterns. And it has trained my mind in a different way. And I love that. I
Hmm.
love that ability to play and learn how to connect this
Hmm.
and 125-pound, weight to do whatever I'm going to do with it. Wow. It's lit up lights that I didn't even know were there. And that's
Yes.
what all this pattern, pickleball can do that, and anything, hiking, good, strong hiking can do that, where we start to learn how to stay present in our body and allow our body to figure it out, because it will, because our body's so intelligent.
Oh, it's so smart, man. It's so smart. Giving it permission to be smart is one of the big steps. And for someone like yourself who trusts their body, you've been with this body your whole life and you've pushed it and pulled it and stretched it. And, would there be some advice you could give for someone who maybe, the body might not be in their mindset a safe place? Like maybe it's a place where I hold my trauma and maybe I'm afraid of my body. Is there a couple tips maybe you could give some folks who want to re-enter the body?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll share with you that I had 2 hip replacements
Mm,
in the last 3 years. And um, part of it, a small percentage of it, was genetic. My mom had 2 hip replacements in her 50s. So I knew that there was a possibility. But truthfully, I think the biggest component was menopause and what I wasn't aware of that was happening, the inflammation in my body. And some diet, so probably mostly menopause, COVID, a lot of changes.
mm,
And so I walked around with a lot of shame for a good number of years, because here I am, this yoga teacher, this mental strength coach, like all the stuff I've done, and I'm
mhm.
getting hip replacements in my 50s. And so I understand people that walk around not feeling like they're not in their body. And whether it's because the body doesn't feel safe, or the body, in my case, felt like it was betraying me and all I'd done to stay healthy my whole life. Um, and so we have to be very, very gentle with ourselves, and not claiming to have a lot of experience with, you know, with releasing trauma in the body. That's really not been my um, field at all. But starting with loving kindness is definitely something I have practiced a lot. And I'll share a wonderful practice that my teacher taught me, Scott McBride, and that is to put your hand on your heart, either physically or even just mentally, when you're feeling like you are either not in your body or not able to feel safe in your body or to love your body. And to, with your hand on your heart, to say to yourself, there, sweetheart.
Mhm.
There,
Mhm.
sweetheart.
Right.
There,
Right.
just like a grandmother would tell
Yeah.
you if you skinned your knee, like there. You're trying, you're here, you're showing up. And that softening of the shoulds and the have tos and the can'ts and the, don't want tos even. They're there. They're there, sweetheart. For me, it was a game changer, is to really offer myself that kind of kindness, compassion.
That's so well said and just rocked my world, and it's just like we just need to relax,
Hmm.
relax. When we say relax to ourselves, like the body immediately knows, we're safe,
Yes.
you know, and just this whole thing, about being gentle with ourselves. It doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're self-aware. It's an awareness that you're always doing the best you possibly can. And if you could have done better at that particular moment, you would have, but now you have the skills to do that. It's such sound advice.
Thank you. Well, it's from my own direct experience, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
there's one other thing, and I learned this from another meditation teacher, Adyashanti, and he is an inquiry, a wonderful inquiry-led practices. He teaches a lot. And his inquiry that I use all the time with my students and myself is, can I let go just a little bit more?
Mhm.
And it's in the asking of the question that elicits the physical
Mhm.
response.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a, "Yes, I can let go a little more." We don't even have to say anything. All we need to do, as you know, is ask the question, whether it be in a yoga pose or in a traffic jam or before you're, ready to lash out at somebody. It's like, "Can I let go just a little bit more?"
Yeah, it's the questioning just keeps us so young and
Mm,
vibrant, and it's the know-it-alls that are might be suffering the most right now, because what do we actually really know? You know, Speaking of that, you got this first 60 and what are you going to do the next 60?
Oh, lots of things.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many possibilities.
Isn't it great?
Ah, and really, I feel so fortunate that I finally let go of the need for acknowledgement and the
Hmm.
need to, be wherever I think I'm supposed to be, and all the comparing and the judging. Wow, that was a heavy backpack to carry for
It
oh,
certainly is,
yeah,
and here you are now rewriting the whole storyline for what life can be, once we get past 50. And, I'm serious. I think you can squeeze out another healthy, thriving 60.
why not?
Why not? Who's stopping you?
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody. Nobody. The mind is everything.
yeah.
Mindset, strong mind, flexible, strong body, healthy soul. Huh, okay, here we go. Next 60.
Yeah. All right, let's do it, Ed.
Yeah, I think this next little bit of the ride is going to be something that we've been waiting for. I don't quite know what it is, but I know it's going to be bright and it's going to be light and it's going to be fun.
Mhm. Yeah, and I especially have a very tender place in my heart for women, midlife
Ah,
women. We have been in the dark about the massive changes that happen in our bodies in our 40s and 50s. And there have been too many women, too many women, wise women, capable women that have gone underwater because of the changes. And I was there, I was
mhm,
underwater. And so when I came out, when I got my head back up again, above the water and started to learn about the changes in every system in our body, including our brain during menopause. I got myself really educated and certified and all this. And I really am so passionate. In fact, my sparks, those are the people I'm speaking to most. And when I write,
mhm,
those sparks are these women, capable women, brilliant, wise women that feel invisible and irrelevant in this
mhm,
world. And so, Ed, I have to share that there's a Chinese proverb that
mm.
changed my life when I read it a few years ago. And it says, "When sleeping women wake, mountains move." When sleeping
Oh,
women wake, mountains move. And there are too many women. In fact, this year, 2025, it's estimated 1 billion women are in the menopause age, somewhere
mhm,
in the 45-year-old and older. 1 billion women. Could you imagine even a small percentage of that billion women waking up to their capacities, understanding their bodies, getting
mm.
some of their practices dialed in so they have this prana moving, this energy moving through them? Could you imagine what our world would look like? Our world would change so freaking quickly
Yeah.
if more women my age felt empowered to be who they are and express who they are. Wow.
And I think you're giving people permission to uncover that great sun inside themselves and embrace it.
Thank you.
I totally am down with what you're saying, and I can feel it happening. I think anyone can notice these shifts, and the shifts are happening for our betterment, not our detriment. This freeing up, this sovereignty, this liberty. And when we free up the feminine like that and all these beautiful souls,
Mm.
you're gonna need more than sunglasses. I'm telling you. It'll be bright. So how
Mountains
can
will
people,
move.
I know. How can people connect with you and get your wisdom?
Oh, thank you for asking. The best place is on Substack. So
Beautiful.
Substack's a platform. And if you go to Substack and search Cara Bradley or Sparked, you'll find me. You can sign up free daily sparks, little mindset boosts. And or you can go to my website, carabradley.net, and you'll be able to get me and sparks through there as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cara is somebody who you want to make contact with and receive her guidance and wisdom. She's been doing it for a long time. She's a trusted source. And when we can be trusted, we can have faith and hope that the best days of our life haven't even occurred yet. Thank you so much for joining us, Cara.
Thank you, Ed.
I appreciate you.